standing on the seemingly endless smooth ground. Xiao Yin gazed with extreme shock at the colossal statue in the far distance. His focus was drawn particularly to the item in the old man's palm. Xiao Yin couldn't discern what the piece of glass was, as there was nothing remarkable about its appearance. Yet, the mere fact that it was placed in such a prominent position signified its extraordinary nature. Without hesitation, Xiao Yin soared towards the distant statue at full speed. However, after flying for nearly half an hour, he realized he had only moved slightly closer to the statue. This was when Xiao Yin truly understood the unfathomable distance between him and the statue, tens of millions of miles apart. The enormity of the statue became even more evident. 2 hours later, when Xiao Yin finally approached the old man's statue, a breathtaking scene unfolded in the distant horizon. What Xiao Yin saw was an incomparably vast continent, golden in hue, with the statue of the old man standing tall upon it. Or rather, the golden continent itself seemed to serve as the statue's pedestal. Glancing at the golden continent before him, Xiao Yin chuckled. Indeed, this so-called lesser thousand worlds was filled with unimaginable wonders. Typically, in either the lower dimensions or the great thousand worlds, continents were surrounded by oceans and served as havens for humanity. Yet here, there was no ocean, only an expanse of smooth, flat land. The land was not composed of rocks or similar materials. Its smoothness hinted at an entirely different nature. Curious about the golden hue of the continent, Xiao Yin flew to its edge and soon discovered the reason behind its striking appearance. The continent was covered with endless fields of golden wheat, stretching across tens of millions of miles as far as the eye could see. The sight was a unique kind of beauty. Every breath of air carried a sense of tranquility. Whoosh! A gentle wind swept over the wheat fields, creating waves of golden tides that surged toward the distant horizon. Xiao Yin flew swiftly over the golden wheat fields, observing for several minutes before his brows furrowed. Apart from the well-grown wheat, the continent lacked any other form of life, not even an insect. Such an anomaly was perplexing. With questions swirling in his mind, Xiao Yin headed towards the statue of the old man. Arriving beneath the towering figure, which seemed to pierce the heavens, he discovered a forest of stone tablets spread across tens of thousands of miles. Each tablet stood hundreds of feet tall and was made of white stone. Despite their seemingly chaotic arrangement, every tablet bore the same inscription: "We come from war. Remember the lessons?" Xiao Yin attempted to read the ancient text. While the structure of the script was different from the present day, he managed to grasp its meaning, especially the final line. "This is the safest place. Do not leave." Reading the latter part of the message, Xiao Yin furrowed his brows, unable to fathom its significance. He speculated the text might have been left behind by someone from the primordial era. His gaze shifted back to the colossal statue. Could the old man have left these words? And where was this old man now? Lord. Suddenly, the name of the Lord flashed in Xiao Yan's mind. This name had been mentioned earlier by the ancient sound of the primordial era. Could this enormous statue have been erected to commemorate the being referred to as the Lord? Xiao Yan examined the inscription again. The reference to war did not seem to imply the battle between the extraterritorial evil clan and the Great Thousand Worlds. What kind of war did it refer to? And who was the we? Was it referring to the Great Thousand Worlds, or the collective entity of the four worlds, including the domain world? Could the domain world have been born from this war? These unresolved questions plunged Xiao Yan into deep thought. As Xiao Yan abandoned his attempts to decipher the mysteries, a massive shadow suddenly loomed over him. Before he could react, the shadow enveloped him completely. Reflexively, Xiao Yan leapt high into the air. When he looked skyward to locate the source of the shadow, his pupils constricted sharply. A massive disc-like object, millions of miles in diameter, slowly moved across the sky. The shadow cast by the behemoth spanned tens of millions of miles, covering nearly 1/10 of the wheat-filled continent below. What shocked Xiao Yan even more was that the colossal object was not merely some construct. It was an entire rocky continent. A continent of millions of miles soared through the heavens above Xiao Yan. The sheer scale of this scene surpassed even the legendary sight of a Kunping soaring skyward. With this in mind, Xiao Yin shot towards the statue's shoulder. From this vantage point, he could observe the entire Lesser Thousand Worlds and its surroundings. After all, the statue itself reached a height of 100 million miles. Whoosh! Xiao Yin pushed his speed to the limit, yet it still took him an hour to reach the statue's knees. Along the way, he witnessed several other colossal continents drifting through the skies. These scenes reminded him of the words spoken by the ancient sound of the primordial era. In the Lesser Thousand Worlds, no matter what you see, don't be surprised. Indeed, this place was far beyond ordinary comprehension. After expending several more hours, Xiao Yin finally reached the statue's shoulder. Standing there, he took in the complete view of the Lesser Thousand Worlds, and his body trembled, not with fear, but with excitement. Xiao Yin was absolutely certain that even if there had been similar tales in the outside world, he would never have believed them without witnessing this sight firsthand. Everything before him was simply too incredible. What Xiao Yin saw was a smooth, expansive Lesser Thousand Worlds divided into hundreds of perfect square grids by massive white lines, each extending for tens of billions of miles. Each square spanned millions of miles on each side. At the intersections of these lines, massive continents were precisely placed. These continents came in two distinct forms. Some were shrouded in raging flames, while others were engulfed in endless lightning. Both types exuded the most violent energies imaginable. The continents Xiao Yin had seen drifting in the sky earlier were also moving to these precise intersections. The scene before him was unmistakable, a game of Go. Except here, the board was the entire Lesser Thousand Worlds, and the pieces were enormous continents. The scale of the game left Xiao Yin utterly shaken. What kind of being, possessing such omnipotent power, could use a world as a chessboard and continents as pieces to play at will? His breath grew heavier as he scanned the entire Lesser Thousand Worlds, but he failed to sense any auras or signs of powerful beings. However, Xiao Yin recalled the ancient sound mentioning the creator of the flame mantra resided here. Could the person playing with these continents be the creator of the flame mantra? Could the fiery continents have originated from this individual? And who was the opponent matching their play? These thoughts sent chills down Xiao Yan's spine. Hey, who are you? Get off. Suddenly, a voice startled Xiao Yin from behind. Turning around, he saw a shirtless young boy floating in midair with his hands on his hips. The boy wore loose, fiery red pants, and a single flame flickered atop his bald head. Strangely, the flame was ordinary, resembling a mundane campfire. Xiao Yin couldn't sense any powerful energy from the boy. This wasn't the aura of a strong being masking their strength. It was genuinely an ordinary presence. Black Giant, what are you staring at? Get off the Lord's shoulder, or I'll burn you alive, the fiery boy shouted angrily. Xiao Yin was momentarily stunned, then glanced down at the statue beneath him. Judging by the boy's words, it seemed the statue indeed belonged to the Lord mentioned by the ancient sound. The fiery boy's threat brought a smile to Xiao Yan's face. Burn him? Xiao Yan found it amusing. Fire was his domain. Remaining calm, he retreated from the statue's shoulder, deducing that this boy might have ties to the creator of the flame mantra. It was best to respect the rules here. As Xiao Yin descended, the fiery boy followed effortlessly, keeping pace with ease. When Xiao Yin stopped in front of the statue, he turned and narrowed his eyes. The boy had moved as quickly as Xiao Yin at his full speed, despite his seemingly ordinary nature. Who was this child? Forgot? When Fireboy uttered these words, Xiao Yin, who had been waiting for him to explain, was momentarily stunned. Then, an urge to strangle him suddenly surged within him. Was this a joke? Such an important martial art technique, one that was even created by himself, could just be casually forgotten? However, what Fireboy said next drove Xiao Yin even crazier. Forget it. If I forgot, I forgot. The fire text catalog was probably something I wrote casually. Forgetting it isn't a big deal, Fireboy said, glancing at Xiao Yin, then adding, how about I rewrite a new one for you in a couple of days? Xiao Yin was speechless, his frustration reaching its peak. After a long sigh, he spoke again. Forget it. I've already practiced the flame fusion chapter you mentioned. Even if you rewrite it, it probably won't be the same as the original fire text catalog. In that case, I'd have to abandon the flame fusion chapter and learn the new method you create. I might as well just continue training the current version of the flame fusion chapter. Xiao glanced at Fire Boy, and after the recent events, he no longer saw him as a mere child. After all, someone who could casually create a technique as powerful as the flame mantra was clearly not someone Xiao could easily reach. Fire Boy seemed to be on the same level as the primordial divine ancestor, whom Xiao had encountered earlier. Moreover, Fire Boy had mentioned that the fire text catalog was something he wrote over 100,000 years ago. This meant that Fire Boy had lived for at least 100,000 years, a lifespan far longer than many ancient beings in the Great Thousand Worlds. There was no way Xiao could still consider him a mere child. Senior Fire. Xiao spoke with respect. I'm willing to offer all the flames I carry within me in exchange. Could you teach me the flame creation chapter and the flame mastery chapter? Don't call me senior. It makes me sound old, Fire Boy responded. Hands on his hips, looking nothing like someone who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years. He appeared more like a playful child. You want to give me all your flames? That's fine, but your quantity is too small. I can only exchange one chapter. You can choose. Fire Boy said. Hearing this, Xiao sighed helplessly. It seemed that this child wasn't easily fooled. However, even if he could only exchange for one chapter, at least he'd still gain something. The flames Fire Boy wanted were the external flames within Xiao body, not the core essence, so Xiao would still retain the most vital part of his power. He would be able to replenish the external flames in no time. Now, Xiao just needed to choose between the Flame Creation chapter and the Flame Mastery chapter. After pondering for a few moments, Xiao made his decision. I'll choose the Flame Creation chapter. You mean the Flame Transformation chapter? Before Xiao could finish, another voice interrupted, and to his surprise, it was Thunder Boy. The Flame Creation chapter? Isn't that the one you forgot? Thunder Boy said casually. Xiao was taken aback. Forgot? But I thought... Little Flame forgot, but I once browsed through the fire text catalog out of boredom. I remember most of it, and do you know why you guys have this set of techniques outside? I copied it from my memory and tossed it into the Great Thousand Worlds, Thunder Boy nonchalantly explained. Xiao was astonished, and even Fire Boy seemed taken aback for a moment. However, Fire Boy quickly dismissed the matter as if it wasn't important, which made Xiao realize that in their eyes, this kind of thing wasn't a big deal. If Little Thunder remembers the Flame Transformation chapter, then you've got another choice. Fire Boy said to Xiao. Then what's the difference between the Flame Transformation chapter and the other three? Xiao asked. Originally, he had planned to choose the Flame Creation chapter, because if he could create flames that pushed his limits, combined with his decades of training in the Flame Fusion chapter, his strength would grow rapidly. He even believed he could break through to the Heavenly Supreme stage within 10 years. The functions and abilities of the Flame Creation and Flame Mastery chapters, you already know. Now, I can tell you that the Flame Transformation chapter's ability is simulation. Thunder Boy said. Simulation? Xiao asked, confused. Simulation means you can simulate any fire attribute power. You can even simulate the weaker flames on the 100 million flames ranking to mimic stronger ones. Although it won't be a perfect copy, Thunder Boy explained. With your current limits, you should be able to simulate all flames ranked after the top 15 on the 100 million flames ranking. How about it? For your chaotic external world, the Flame Transformation chapter seems more suitable, Thunder Boy said. Xiao raised an eyebrow, deep in thought. Indeed, Thunder Boy was right. The Flame Transformation chapter seemed more applicable to him. After all, in the Great Thousand Worlds, he could encounter powerhouses far beyond his strength at any moment. In such a scenario, unless he was exceptionally lucky, escaping unharmed was nearly impossible. But with the ability to simulate flames, he could potentially gain greater strength and increase his chances of survival. Then, what's the limit of this simulation? Xiao asked, his curiosity piqued. With your current strength, you're close to the Upper Earth Supreme level. If you practice the Flame Transformation chapter, you should be able to simulate flames ranked within the top 20. As for how much of their power you can simulate, it depends on your understanding of the Flame Transformation chapter, Thunderboy explained. As for improving your strength, you already have the Flame Fusion chapter, and there are plenty of powerful flames in the Great Thousand Worlds. You won't stop here. Thunderboy's words were certainly accurate. The Great Thousand Worlds contained many powerful flames ranked on the 100 million flames ranking, all of which were resources Xiao Yin could tap into. In this case, he didn't necessarily need to create powerful flames himself. With these available flames, his potential for growth was already quite high. Therefore, Xiao Yin largely agreed with Thunderboy's reasoning. Thank you. Xiao Yin cupped his hands toward Thunderboy. Then, I'll choose the Flame Transformation chapter. Boom. As soon as Xiao Yin finished speaking, brilliant flames erupted from his body. After undergoing refinement by the companion flame, Xiao Yan's flames had grown significantly stronger. In the past, whenever he absorbed and refined other powerful flames, his strength would increase. However, since he hadn't fully merged with his companion flame, his strength didn't show any obvious immediate boost this time. Boom. The raging flames surrounded Xiao Yin. Among them, the Imperial Flame, which had been mostly devoured by Fireboy, was weaker than before. But there were still 4 or 5 other flames that Xiao Yin had gathered from the Great Thousand Worlds. As for the companion flame, Xiao Yin hadn't fully figured out how to handle it, so it was still resting in the Supreme Sea. These flames are yours. Since he had made his decision, Xiao Yin was ready to fulfill his promise. He flicked his fingers, intending to send these external flames toward Fireboy. But just as Xiao Yin flicked his fingers, Fireboy raised his hand, and the space froze. The sweeping flames stopped midair. I said you could exchange flames for one of the chapters in the Fire text catalog, but I never said you could give me such weak flames. These are not the strongest flames you can offer, Fireboy said with a smile. Hey, I want the strongest flames from you, and I'll take care of a little problem for you. Xiao Yin was momentarily stunned, but before he could react, Fireboy's hand pointed at him. An irreversible force from the level of rules descended upon Xiao Yin, freezing every cell in his body. Boom. At that moment, the flames surrounding Xiao Yin reversed course, flowing back into his body. Meanwhile, in the depths of Xiao Yan's vast Supreme Sea, a divine soul the size of a palm opened its eyes, staring in shock at the surrounding Supreme Sea. Though his physical body was frozen, the consciousness attached to his divine soul could still move. Boom, boom, boom. Xiao Yin knew that this sudden turn of events was the work of Fireboy, but he had no idea what Fireboy was trying to do. What happened next shocked Xiao Yin. The previously calm Supreme Sea began to tremble. No, it wasn't just trembling. It was boiling. This intense heat came from deep within the Supreme Sea, where the companion flame and the thousands of refining flames from the Doqi world were stored. These 2 flames, one of which Xiao Yin hadn't been able to refine, and the other which he hadn't dared to refine due to the primordial divine clan's restrictions, were now being powerfully summoned.